The great hall was built from crystal that stretched up so high that Jake Morrison could barely see the top. Light came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Strange creatures sat in rows around him. Some looked like walking trees with blue skin. Others had too many arms and eyes that glowed purple. A few floated in the air without touching anything. Jake stood in the middle of it all. His boots made small clicking sounds on the smooth floor. Behind him, Captain Lisa Hayes and Commander Ryan Brooks stood straight and tall. Their uniforms looked plain and simple next to all the fancy robes and weird body parts of the aliens. Around them, the Zithari Prime Minister was the strangest of all. It looked like a giant crystal shaped like a person. Colors moved inside it, like slow lightning. When it was angry, the colors turned dark red. When it was thinking, they became cool blue. Right now, they were flashing between red and orange, which Jake had learned meant the creature was very upset. "We are here today because humans have broken our laws," the crystal being said. Its voice came from speakers hidden in the walls. The words sounded cold and mechanical. 3 months ago, human ships attacked Vorthan vessels near the mining world of Kepler 442b. This was wrong. This was against everything we stand for. Jake wanted to laugh, but he kept his face serious. The Vorthans had been attacking human mining colonies for weeks. They took whatever they wanted and killed anyone who tried to stop them. When the colonists called for help, Jake had sent 3 ships. The Vorthans ran away after losing 2 of their raiders. Nobody died except a few Vorthan pirates who refused to surrender. The Altarian ambassador stood up. She looked almost human, except for her silver skin and the fact that she was 8 feet tall. Her voice was beautiful, like singing, but Jake could hear the threat hiding underneath. "The Vorthans are members of this council," she said. "They have ancient rights to mine in that system. They have been doing this for 2,000 years, long before humans learned to leave their home world. You had no right to interfere. Those ancient rights don't include murdering innocent people," Jake said. His voice echoed in the big hall. Several aliens made shocked noises. Apparently, they were not used to being talked back to. The crystal. Prime Minister's colors shifted to deep purple. "You will show respect in this chamber. We are offering you a great gift. Accept our terms and humans will join the council as full members. You will have access to technology that will advance your species by thousands of years. You will have protection from all threats. Your people will never know war again." Jake looked around the hall. 12 different alien species sat watching him. Their ships could destroy Earth in a day. Their technology could turn humans into gods or wipe them out completely. They were offering everything any reasonable leader could want. "What's the catch?" Jake asked. A creature that looked like a giant bug with too many legs clicked its mandibles together. "There is no catch. Only peace, only prosperity, only order. And all we have to do is abandon people who asked for our help," Jake said. "You must follow council law," the Prime Minister said. Its colors were getting brighter and more angry. "You must accept that some conflicts are not your concern. You must understand that the greater good sometimes requires difficult choices." Lisa Hayes stepped forward. She was younger than Jake, but had seen more combat. Her face showed no emotion as she spoke. "The colonists on Kepler 442b are humans. Children, families, people trying to build new lives. The Vorthans were killing them for fun." "The Vorthans have explained this," said another alien that looked like a walking jellyfish. "There was a territorial dispute. Some violence was regrettable, but necessary to maintain order. They burned down a school," Ryan Brooks said quietly. 63 kids inside? The hall went silent. Even the aliens looked uncomfortable. "These are the complexities of galactic politics," the Prime Minister said finally. Individual tragedies must be weighed against the greater peace. This is why we have the Council. This is why we have laws. Jake felt something cold growing in his stomach. These creatures had been ruling the galaxy for centuries. They had ended wars, stopped conflicts, brought peace to dozens of worlds. And they had done it by deciding that some people mattered more than others. Let me make sure I understand, Jake said slowly. You want us to join your council. You want us to follow your laws. And your laws say that Vorthans can kill human children if they have the right paperwork. You oversimplify, the Altarian ambassador said. The council maintains order through compromise, through balance, through understanding that absolute justice is impossible in a complex galaxy. That's a fancy way of saying you let strong people hurt weak people as long as they share with you, Jake said. The Prime Minister's colors exploded into bright red. Other aliens started making angry noises. Some of them had weapons. Jake could see laser pistols and energy shields starting to appear. You dare to lecture us about justice? The Prime Minister said. Your species has been in space for less than 200 years. We have maintained galactic peace for 3,000 years. We have prevented wars that would have destroyed entire star systems. By letting bullies do whatever they want as long as they follow your rules, Jake said. By understanding that perfection is impossible and compromise is necessary, the Altarian ambassador said. By accepting that some sacrifices must be made for the greater good. Jake looked at Lisa and Ryan. They both nodded slightly. They understood what he was thinking. Here's our answer, Jake said. No. The word hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Jake could see confusion on the faces of aliens who had probably never heard that word directed at them before. No, the Prime Minister said. Its colors had stopped moving entirely. You refuse our offer? We refuse to abandon people who need our help, Jake said. We refuse to join a council that thinks might makes right. We refuse to pretend that following orders is more important than doing what's right. You do not understand, the bug-like creature said. Without our protection, you stand alone. The Vorthans will return with larger fleets. Other species will see humans as weak and unprotected. You will face enemies you cannot imagine. Then we'll face them, Lisa said simply. You will lose, the Prime Minister said. Its voice had become very quiet and very cold. You will all die. Maybe, Jake said, but we'll die free. The aliens looked at each other with expressions that Jake was learning to read. Confusion, disbelief, fear. They had built their entire civilization on the idea that anyone with half a brain would choose safety over principle when the choice was life or death. This is your final decision? The Prime Minister asked. It is, Jake said. Then you have chosen extinction, the Altarian ambassador said sadly. We are sorry for your species. We had hoped for better. Jake smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Lady, we've been disappointing people's expectations for our entire history. We're pretty good at it by now. The great crystal hall fell silent as three humans turned their backs on the most powerful beings in the galaxy and walked toward the door. Behind them, 12 alien species began planning for a war. They were sure would last exactly 3 weeks. They were about to learn how very wrong they could be. 3 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the council chambers. Now General Patricia Kane sat deep underground in a bunker carved into solid rock. Computer screens covered every wall, showing the positions of enemy fleets moving toward Earth like hungry wolves. The council had been busy. Their ships were massive things that looked more like flying cities than weapons of war. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. They moved in perfect formations, following battle plans that had been tested in computer simulations thousands of times. How many? Patricia asked. Colonel Steve Martinez looked up from his reports. He was a thin man with tired eyes who had not slept properly in weeks. 237 capital ships, maybe 400 smaller vessels. They're coming from 6 different directions. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was handling communications from her station nearby. Static and broken voices filled the air as human colonies across the galaxy reported council fleets approaching their worlds. Every report was the same: surrender or be destroyed. Any word from Proxima Centauri? Patricia asked. Amy shook her head. Nothing for the past 4 hours. Last transmission was Captain Carter saying he was going to try something crazy. Patricia closed her eyes for a moment. Ben Carter was a good man with a wife and 2 kids back on Mars. His ship, the Denver, was old and slow compared to Council vessels. He had maybe 30 crew members. The Council fleet approaching Proxima had over 50 ships. The tactical screen lit up with new information. Patricia opened her eyes and felt her heart sink. The icons representing human forces were tiny blue dots. The Council forces were massive red triangles that seemed to cover half the screen. "Ma'am," Steve said quietly, "and math doesn't work. Even if every shot we fire hits perfectly, even if we lose no ships to equipment failure, even if everything goes exactly right, we still lose. Badly." Patricia had run the same calculations. Earth had 67 ships that could be called warships. The Council was bringing over 600. Human weapons were newer but weaker. Human shields were experimental and untested. Human crews were brave but inexperienced. "Tell me about the Council's previous wars," Patricia said. Steve pulled up files on his screen. "They're very good at what they do. They pick their targets carefully. They show overwhelming force. Most species surrender before the shooting starts. When they do fight, it's quick and clean. Average war duration is 3 weeks. What about species that don't surrender? There are none. Everyone surrenders once they see the odds." Amy suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Ma'am, I'm getting something from Proxima. It's weak, but it's there." The speakers crackled with static and broken words. Through the noise, they could hear Ben Carter's voice. He sounded excited and slightly crazy. "Denver to Earth Control. Mission accomplished. Repeat, mission accomplished. Council flagship is dead in space. Use the old kamikaze trick. Sorry about the ship. Tell my wife I love her. Carter out." The transmission cut to static. Patricia stared at the speakers. Did he just say what I think he said? More reports started coming in. The Council fleet at Proxima was in chaos. Their command ship had lost power after a human cruiser rammed straight into its main shield generator. While the shields were down, smaller human ships had swarmed the giant vessel like angry bees. Steve was reading tactical reports as they came in. Council forces are regrouping. They've lost their flagship and 3 escort vessels. Human losses are 5 ships destroyed, 2 damaged. The remaining human forces are falling back to the asteroid belt. Patricia felt something she had not expected. To feel hope. Ben Carter had just proven that Council ships could be hurt. More importantly, he had proven that humans could do things the Council didn't expect. The next report came from the mining colony at Ceres. Commander Julie Ross was defending the asteroid with 8 fighter ships against a Council battle group. Her transmission was calm and professional. "Earth Control, this is Ross. Enemy forces are demanding surrender. We're going to give them our answer the hard way. If anyone's listening, tell my kids that Mommy's going to work late tonight." Her fighters launched themselves at the Council ships like bullets from a gun. They were too small and fast for the big alien weapons to track properly. Julie led her squadron straight into the middle of the enemy formation and detonated her fighter's reactor right next to their command ship. The explosion turned night into day for anyone watching from Ceres. When the light faded, the Council command ship was drifting helplessly. The other enemy vessels were damaged and confused. The 7 remaining human fighters picked them apart like scavengers. "How is this possible?" Steve asked. The simulation said this couldn't happen. Patricia was beginning to understand. The simulations assumed we would fight like them, carefully, rationally, trying to preserve our forces and minimize casualties. Amy looked up from her communication station. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from all over. Lieutenant Thompson just destroyed an entire Council squadron by ramming his ship into their ammunition storage. Captain Rodriguez turned her cargo hauler into a bomb and took out their fuel depot. Civilian volunteers on Titan are building weapons out of mining equipment." Each report was the same pattern. Humans doing things that made no military sense, but somehow worked. Trading expensive ships for even more expensive enemy vessels. Using suicide attacks that the Council never saw coming. Fighting with desperation. And creativity that computer simulations could not predict. The Zithari Prime Minister was having similar problems in its own command center. The crystal being's colors had been flashing red and orange for hours as reports poured in from across human space. "Explain this to me," it demanded of its military advisors. "How are these primitives causing such damage? Their technology is inferior. Their numbers are smaller. Their fleet should have been destroyed in the first day." The military advisor was a Vorthan general with too many scars and not enough patience. "They're fighting like animals. No strategy, no planning. They just throw themselves at our ships and explode. Animals can be predicted," the Prime Minister sighed. "Animals follow patterns. These humans make no sense." Another advisor, this one a floating jellyfish-like creature, drifted forward. "Perhaps we underestimated their desperation. Cornered creatures often fight harder than expected." "Desperation alone does not explain this," the Prime Minister said. "Our casualties are approaching unacceptable levels." This was supposed to be a police action, not a war. The reports kept coming. Human forces were losing every major battle, but winning in ways that didn't show up on the tactical displays. Every Council victory cost more ships than it should. Every human defeat seemed to inspire 2 more acts of defiance. Back on Earth, Patricia was reading a message that made her smile for the first time in months. It was from Jake Morrison, now commanding the defense of the outer colonies. "Pat, the Council boys don't understand us yet. They think war is a math problem. Ships plus weapons plus tactics equals victory. They're learning that humans don't do math the same way they do. We add heart and stubborn stupidity to every equation. Keep fighting. We're making them pay for every inch, Jake." Amy looked up from her station with new reports. "Ma'am, the Council fleet at Europa is requesting reinforcements. Captain Williams just turned the whole moon into a fortress using nothing but ice and mining charges. They can't get close enough to land troops." "What about the fleet heading for Earth?" Patricia asked. Steve checked his screens. "Still coming, but they've slowed down. They're being more careful now. Scanning for ambushes. Checking for traps. They're scared." Patricia felt that unfamiliar hope growing stronger. The Council had expected to fight a civilized war with civilized enemies who would surrender when the odds became hopeless. Instead, they were fighting humans, who seemed to get more dangerous when they were losing. "Send a message to all human forces," Patricia said. "Tell them the Council is learning to be afraid of us. Tell them every ship they take down, every impossible victory, every crazy stunt that works is teaching these aliens that humans don't quit. Tell them to keep being human." The war was supposed to be over in 3 weeks. It had been 3 months, and the Council was starting to realize they might have made a terrible mistake. They had picked a fight with a species that didn't know how to lose Dot in the deep bunker under the Rocky Mountains. Patricia Kane watched the tactical displays and smiled. The red triangles representing Council forces were still bigger and more numerous than the blue dots of human ships. But for the first time since the war began, some of those red triangles were running away. Dr. Elena Rodriguez woke up in a room that hurt her eyes. Everything was too bright and the wrong color. The walls curved in ways that made no sense. She was lying on something that might have been a bed, but felt like sleeping on warm jelly. 6 months ago, she had been studying alien plant samples on Tau Ceti. Then the Council ships came. Her research station was destroyed in the fighting, but the aliens had pulled her from the wreckage. They said they wanted to understand humans better. Elena was starting to think they had picked the wrong person to study. The door opened without making any sound. Her interrogator came in. It was a Zethari, one of the crystal people. This one was smaller than the prime minister she had seen on news broadcasts. Its colors moved slowly through blues and greens, which Elena had learned meant it was thinking. Hard. "Good morning, Dr. Rodriguez," the creature said through speakers built into the walls. "I hope you are comfortable." Elena sat up and rubbed her eyes. As comfortable as anyone can be in a floating prison, I guess. "What do you want today?" "The same thing I have wanted for weeks. Understanding." The Zethari's colors shifted to purple, showing confusion. "Your species makes no sense. We have studied your military tactics. We have analyzed your technology. We have examined your culture through your broadcasts and literature. Yet we cannot predict what humans will do next." Elena laughed, which made the aliens' colors flash bright yellow. She had learned that meant surprise or alarm. "You want to understand humans? Try this." Yesterday, Lieutenant Danny Peterson held a choke point on Titan for 6 hours after his entire squad was killed. He was wounded, outnumbered 50 to 1, and had no chance of survival. Any rational person would have surrendered. Danny kept fighting until the ammunition ran out, then used his knife, then threw rocks. He died buying time for a bunch of miners to escape. "This is exactly what I mean," the Zethari said. "His actions serve no strategic purpose. The miners he saved are not military assets. They contribute nothing to your war effort. His death was meaningless. His death saved 37 people. That's not meaningless to their families." The crystal being's colors swirled faster, shifting from blue to orange to red. But the mathematical cost analysis clearly shows that one trained soldier is worth more than 37 civilian miners. His sacrifice made your military position weaker, not stronger. Elena stared at the alien for a long moment. Finally, she understood why the Council was losing this war. "You really don't get it, do you? You think this is all about numbers, ships, and weapons and tactical advantages. War is mathematics. Force ratios, resource allocation, strategic positioning. These are the factors that determine victory. Maybe for you, but humans don't fight with math. We fight with something you people seem to have forgotten about. Please explain." Elena stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see Council ships moving in perfect formations. Everything was organized, efficient, logical. It was also completely without soul. My grandfather used to tell me stories about Earth's old wars. He said the most dangerous thing you could do was corner a human and threaten someone they cared about. We have this thing called love, and it makes us do crazy things. Love is an inefficient emotional response that clouds rational judgment. Love is what makes a mother lift a car off her trapped child. Love is what makes a soldier charge a machine gun nest to save his friends. Love is what makes Danny Peterson throw rocks at aliens with laser guns because 37 strangers needed 10 more minutes to escape. The Zethari was quiet for a moment. Its colors had stopped moving entirely, which Elena had never seen before. Your species evolved differently than ours, the alien finally said. We developed intelligence as a survival mechanism. Logic and reason allowed us to overcome natural predators and environmental challenges. Love, as you call it, would have been counterproductive. Elena nodded. We evolved as pack hunters. We chased big animals across thousands of miles until they dropped from exhaustion. It took incredible teamwork. We had to care about each other more than we cared about ourselves, or the whole group would die. This explains your military tactics. You sacrifice individual units to protect the group. It's bigger than that. Every human who's fighting right now is fighting for someone they love. For their kids, their friends, their neighbors, even for strangers they've never met. You can't beat that with math. The interrogation sessions continued for days. Elena found herself becoming a teacher instead of a prisoner. The Zethari, who told her his name was Keeper Valders, seemed genuinely desperate to understand how human minds worked. We have intercepted communications from your military units, Valders said during one session. They frequently mention fighting for abstract concepts. Freedom, justice, dignity. These are not tangible assets that can be protected or lost. They're more real than your ships and weapons, Elena said. A ship can be destroyed. Freedom lives in here. She tapped her chest. You can kill the person, but you can't kill the idea. This is illogical. Ideas cannot be measured or quantified. Tell that to Captain Michelle Garcia. Her ship was falling apart around her, but she still managed to evacuate 30,000 civilians from New Shanghai before it exploded. She died for an idea. The idea that innocent people deserve protection. Valders's colors shifted to deep purple. We have studied this incident. Captain Garcia's ship could have escaped safely if she had not attempted the evacuation. Her death served no military purpose. Her death served a human purpose. It proved that we don't abandon people who need help. It showed 30,000 families that they matter. It told the universe that humans keep their promises, even when it costs everything. The alien was quiet for a long time. When it spoke again, its voice sounded different somehow. Smaller, more uncertain. We do not understand promises that lead to death. In our culture, survival is the highest virtue. Self-preservation ensures the continuation of knowledge and genetic material. To die for strangers makes no logical sense. Elena felt sorry for the creature. It was trying so hard to understand something that was completely foreign to its nature. That's why you're losing this war, she said gently. You think humans are fighting for territory or resources or political power. We're fighting for the right to be human. The right to care about people we've never met. The right to keep promises, even when they're inconvenient. The right to be stupid and stubborn and emotional. But your species will be extinct if you continue this path. Our fleets are larger. Our technology is superior. Mathematical analysis shows that human victory is impossible. Maybe, but we'll go down fighting for something we believe in. Can you say the same? Valders's colors had faded to almost nothing. The crystal being sat motionless for several minutes before speaking again. I am beginning to understand why our projections have been incorrect. We assumed that humans would behave rationally when faced with extinction. We did not account for the possibility that some species would choose principles over survival. Now you're getting it. This creates a significant problem for our strategic planning. How does one defeat an enemy that becomes more dangerous when faced with impossible odds? Elena smiled. You don't. You either learn to leave them alone, or you keep fighting until one of you is completely gone. And I should warn you about humans and extinction. We're kind of experts at surviving things that should have killed us. Outside the window, council ships continued their perfect formations. But Elena could see something new in their movements: hesitation, uncertainty, fear. The first time since her capture, Elena began to think that maybe, just maybe, humanity might actually win this impossible war. 1 year after the war began, Jake Morrison stood once again in the great crystal hall, but everything had changed. The perfect lighting now flickered sometimes. Cracks ran through some of the crystal walls. Several seats sat empty where council members used to sit. The Zithari Prime Minister's colors were dim and slow, like a dying fire. Jake's uniform was different too. It was patched and worn, marked by a year of constant fighting. Behind him stood Linda Hayes, who had taken over after her sister Lisa died, defending Europa. Next to her was Lieutenant Commander Scott Davis, who had replaced Ryan Brooks after Ryan's final charge against a council dreadnought at Saturn. The faces were different, but the look in their eyes was the same. Tired but unbroken. Battered but not beaten. "You have cost us more than we ever imagined possible," the Altarian ambassador said. Her beautiful voice now carried notes of exhaustion and something that might have been respect. "In 1 year, you have destroyed more council ships than we lost in the previous 3 centuries. Jake said nothing. He just waited. The Prime Minister's colors shifted slowly from blue to purple to orange. "We are prepared to offer terms that no species in galactic history has ever received. Complete autonomy for all human worlds. Territory. Concessions that will expand your space by 40%. Technology transfers that will advance your civilization by thousands of years. Protection under our mutual defense treaties." "And in return?" Jake asked. "Simple acknowledgement of council authority in matters of galactic law. Agreement to submit territorial disputes to our mediation. Acceptance of our protocols for conflict resolution." Jake looked around the hall. The bug-like creature that had spoken so confidently a year ago now kept its head down and said nothing. The floating jellyfish diplomat had stopped attending sessions entirely. Half the council looked like they wanted to be anywhere else in the galaxy. "You're scared of us," Jake said quietly. The Prime Minister's colors flashed angry red for a moment, then faded back to dim orange. "We are concerned about the precedent this conflict has established. Other species are watching. Some are beginning to question established authority structures." "Good," Linda Hayes said. "Maybe they'll learn something." "This is exactly what we wish to prevent," the Altarian ambassador said. "Galactic civilization requires order, structure, predictable responses to conflict situations. Your species has introduced chaos into a system that has maintained peace for millennia." "Your system maintained peace by letting strong people hurt weak people," Scott Davis said. "That's not peace. That's just organized bullying." The Vorthan general, who had been quiet for most of the session, finally spoke up. His voice was rough and angry. "Your resistance has cost us everything. Fleets destroyed, colonies abandoned, trade routes disrupted. All for what? To protect a handful of mining settlements that produce nothing of value?" Jake smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "You still don't understand, do you? This was never about those mining settlements. This was about the idea that people have the right to ask for help and expect to get it. Ideas cannot be quantified or defeated," the Prime Minister said. Its colors had become very pale. "Our military advisors have concluded that complete victory over humanity would require the commitment of our entire fleet for an indefinite period. Even then, success is not guaranteed." "Success is guaranteed," Jake said. "Just not the way you think." The aliens looked confused. Several of them made questioning noises. "You could destroy every human ship," Jake continued. "You could burn every human world. You could kill every last one of us. But you'd never recover from it. Every species in the galaxy would know that you murdered an entire civilization because They refused to bow down to you. That's not the kind of precedent you want to set. The hall fell silent. Jake could see understanding dawn on alien faces as they realized the trap they had built for themselves. They had started this war to maintain their authority. Now they faced a choice between genocide and admitting failure. "What do you want from us?" the Prime Minister asked. Its voice was barely audible. "We want you to stop," Jake said simply. "Stop threatening people who can't fight back. Stop deciding who lives and dies based on your politics. Stop pretending that might makes right. The galaxy requires leadership," the Altarian ambassador said weakly. "Then lead by example instead." "Of fear," Linda said. "Show people how to be better instead of forcing them to obey." "And if we refuse?" the Vorthan general snarled. Jake shrugged. "Then we keep fighting. And other species will see humans standing up to the mighty council and winning. They'll start to wonder why they've been taking orders from you all these years. Some of them might decide to follow our example." The Prime Minister's colors went completely gray, which Jake had learned meant despair. "You would condemn the galaxy to chaos. Without central authority, there will be wars everywhere. Millions will die. Maybe," Jake said. "Or maybe people will learn to solve their problems without someone holding a gun to their heads. Maybe they'll discover that freedom is worth the risk." The session dragged on for hours. The council tried different approaches, offered different terms, made different threats. But they all came back to the same impossible choice. Accept that their authority was broken, or commit genocide against a species that refused to surrender. Finally, the Prime Minister called for a recess. The aliens filed out of the chamber, leaving the three humans alone in the vast crystal hall. "Do you think they'll accept it?" Scott asked. "They don't have a choice," Linda said. Elena's reports from her captivity made it clear. They can't understand why we fight, and they can't predict what we'll do next. That terrifies them more than our weapons. Jake nodded. They built their whole civilization on the idea that everyone would eventually surrender if you made the consequences bad enough. We proved them wrong. Now they have to decide if they want to be remembered as peacekeepers or genocidal maniacs. When the session resumed, the Prime Minister's announcement was brief and bitter. The Council will withdraw its fleets from human space. All territorial claims against human worlds are hereby abandoned. Humans will be granted full independence and recognition as a sovereign power. What about the other species that want independence? Jake asked. The Prime Minister's colors flashed angry red again, but it answered. Each case will be evaluated individually. The Council will consider requests for autonomy on their individual merits. It wasn't everything Jake had hoped for, but it was a start. Other species would see that the Council could be defied and defeated. Some of them would find the courage to demand their own freedom. As the three humans walked out of the Crystal Hall for the last time, Jake felt something he hadn't felt in over a year. Hope for the future. The galaxy would be different now. Messier, more dangerous, less predictable, but also more free. And that was worth any price. Behind them, the Council began the long process of learning to lead through inspiration instead of intimidation. It would be a hard lesson, but humans had given them no choice but to learn it. In the end, the Council had been right about one thing. No one had ever rejected their peace before, but they had been wrong about everything else. Humans hadn't rejected peace. They had rejected surrender. And in doing so, they had given the galaxy something it had forgotten it could have: a choice.